Hello and welcome back to English with Alice. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel if you would like to keep up to date with business and general English videos. In today's lesson, I will be asking you business English questions and I will also be providing you with possible answers that you could use. After I have asked and explained each question, I would love if you could try to answer the question yourselves. I have also used some very useful business English vocabulary, as well as some phrases that you could use in your English working life. Now, let's get started with the first question. If you had to start your own business right now, what type of business would you start and why? Now, let's look at how you could possibly answer this question. If I had to start my own business, I would open type of business or business name because. Now, let's look at my example. If I had to start my own business, I would open an 80s style bar, as there are a lack of them in my town, which are designed for the younger generation. Now, let's look at this highlighted vocabulary. Lack of. The definition: absence of or deficiency in. Lack of bars. An absence of bars. What was the best piece of professional advice you've ever received? How did it help you? Now, let's look at the possible answer. The best piece of professional advice I've ever received is advice. It has helped me. Now, let's look at my example. The best piece of professional advice I've ever received would have to be, don't stop until you've achieved your goals. This has helped me to get where I am today, a successful entrepreneur. Now let's look at the highlighted vocabulary. Entrepreneur. The definition: a business person. A successful entrepreneur. Now let's look at the negative form. What is the worst piece of professional advice you've ever received? Did you take the person's advice? Now let's look at how to answer these questions. The worst piece of professional advice I've ever received is advice. And now for the second question. Yes, I did. No, I didn't because. Now let's look at my example. The worst piece of professional advice I've ever received is give up on your dreams after you've had children. No, I didn't, because I believe your life isn't over after you've had children. Is your career the career you thought you'd have when you were in secondary school? Now, let's look at how to answer. Yes, it is, or no, it isn't. When I was in secondary school, I always thought that I would be type of career or job because. Now let's look at my example. No, it isn't. When I was in secondary school, I always thought I would be a doctor. However, after school, I changed my mind and decided to go into architecture. Have you ever had to give a large speak in front of a large group of people? How did it go? Now, let's look at the possible answer. Yes, I have, or no, I haven't, had to give a speech in front of a large group of people. It went very well, or very bad, because. Now, let's look at my example. No, I haven't had to give a speech in front of a large group of people, but if I had the opportunity, I don't think I would do it. I don't like being the centre of attention. Now, let's look at the highlighted vocabulary. Centre of attention. The definition: focal point or focus of interest. I don't like being the centre of attention. Have you ever worked for a company that offered unusual perks to its employees? Explain. Now, let's look at how to answer this question. Yes, I have, or no, I haven't, worked for a company that offered unusual perks. If yes, you can say, my previous job offered unusual perk, which. Now, let's look at my example. Yes, I have worked for a company that offered unusual perks. My current job offers free food shopping vouchers every month, which is very practical. Have you ever forgotten about an important event? What happened? Now, let's look at how to answer these questions. Yes, I have, or no, I haven't ever forgotten about an important event. I once forgot about type of event or name of event because. Now, let's look at my example. No, I haven't ever forgotten about an important event, but I nearly forgot about a Christmas dinner with our new supplier. It would have been a nightmare if I hadn't shown up. Now, let's look at the highlighted vocabulary. Show up. Show up. The definition: to arrive or to be present. If you had £1 million to invest, how would you invest it? Now, let's look at possible answers. If I had £1 million to invest, I would, type of investment, because. Now, let's look at my example. If I had £1 million to invest, I would invest half of it into the stock market and the other half into property development. Now, let's look at our highlighted vocabulary. Stock market. Stock market. The definition: financial trading. Half of it into the stock market. Can someone be taught to be a leader? Now, let's look at the possible answers to this question. Yes, you can, or no, you can't be taught to be a leader because. Now, let's look at my example. Yes, I believe you can be taught to be a leader. Maybe not everything, but there are some things that you can learn, such as leadership skills. Now, let's look at the highlighted vocabulary. Leadership skills. Leadership skills. The definition: ability to manage others, such as leadership skills. What was the best or worst business trip you've ever taken? Now, let's look at how we can answer this question. The best or worst business trip I have ever taken would have to be business trip because. Now, let's look at my example. The best business trip I have ever taken would have to be when we went to Switzerland. There was an amazing ski resort, and we even managed to close a big deal. Now, let's look at the highlighted vocabulary. Deal. Deal. Definition: agreement. We even managed to close a big deal. Is it okay for companies to not pay their interns? Why or why not? Now, let's look at how to answer these questions. Yes, it is, or no, it isn't, okay for companies not to pay their interns because. Now, let's look at my example. I personally think that it isn't okay for companies to not pay their interns. People shouldn't have to work for free labour to gain work experience. Now, let's look at the highlighted vocabulary. Labour. Labour. Definition: hard work. Work for free labour. Are dress codes important? Is there any benefit to having a formal dress code? Now, let's have a look at how to answer these questions. Yes, they are, or no, they aren't important. The advantages or disadvantages to having a formal dress code are. Now, let's look at my example. No, I honestly don't think they are important. It puts more pressure on people, which can make them uncomfortable in the workplace. Now, let's look at the highlighted vocabulary. Workplace. Workplace. The definition: work site or place where work is done. Uncomfortable in the workplace. What is the biggest goal that you have already achieved? How were you able to achieve this goal? Now, let's look at how we could possibly answer these questions. The biggest goal that I have already achieved is your achieved goal. I managed to achieve it by. Now, let's look at my example. Being CEO of my company is the biggest goal that I have achieved. I managed to achieve it by putting in a lot of blood, sweat and tears, by working all day and night. Now, let's look at the highlighted vocabulary. Blood, sweat and tears. Blood, sweat and tears. Definition: very hard thing to do and requires a lot of effort. Putting in a lot of blood, sweat and tears. What's the biggest challenge you're facing right now? Now, let's look at possible answers. The biggest challenge that I'm facing right now is challenge. Now, let's look at my example. The biggest challenge that I'm facing at the moment is deciding what to do now, after my company went into bankruptcy last year. Let's look at the highlighted vocabulary. Bankruptcy. Bankruptcy. Definition: failure of a company. Tell us about a time you got ripped off. Now, let's look at how to answer this question. The last time I got ripped off was... Now, let's look at my example. The last time I got ripped off was last month, when my supplier sent me some out-of-date stock. Let's look at the highlighted vocabulary. Rip off. Rip off. Definition: steal or plagiarize or dishonest transaction. The last time I got ripped off. Tell me about something you bought that was a terrific bargain. Now, let's look at how to answer this question. The last terrific bargain that I found or got was... Now, let's look at my example. The last terrific bargain I found was a cup of coffee for 50p from the cafe at work. Now I get coffee every day. Let's look at the highlighted vocabulary. Bargain. Bargain. Definition: at a discounted price or a good price. The last terrific bargain. Do you think friends make good business partners? Why or why not? Now let's look at how to answer these questions. Yes, I do, or no, I don't think friends make good business partners because... Now let's look at my example. No, I don't think friends make good business partners because there can be a lot of conflicts and feelings can get hurt. Let's look at the highlighted vocabulary. Conflict. Conflict. Definition: disagreement. What is the best or worst customer service experience you've had? Now let's look at how to answer this question. The best or worst customer service experience that I've ever had was experience because... Now let's look at my example. The worst customer service experience that I've ever had was yesterday. The barista refused to make me a cup of tea because I wanted to pay by card. Do you think the office is a good place to get work done? Why or why not? Now let's look at how to answer this question. Yes, I do, or no, I don't think the office is a good place to get work done because... Now let's look at my example. No, I don't think the office is a good place to get work done because there are far too many distractions and noise. What unusual skill or skills have come in handy at your current job? Now, let's look at how to answer this question. The unusual skill or skills that have come in handy at my current job are your skills because... Now, let's look at my example. The unusual skills that have come in handy at my work are being truthful and voicing my opinions at the worst of times. Turns out, people really do like to hear the truth. Highlighted vocabulary. Handy. Handy. Definition: useful. Have come in handy. That is the end of my 20 business questions with answers. Thank you for watching today's lesson. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it very useful. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video and check out some of my other videos that I've done. If you would like to learn about a particular topic, don't hesitate to leave a comment under the video.